Welcome, everybody, to another Roundtable Without the Table podcast. It's so great to be with you all. And today we have some special guests along with myself, Stephen Rivera, and Luke Monahan. We have our wives with us. We have Kelly Jo Rivera and Robbie Jo Monahan.
That's right.
No relationship, but
right.
It's still pretty awesome that is like that. That's actually kind of awesome.
Hey, serious question though. Do we introduce her as Kelly Jo Rivera Esquire yet? What's the deal?
Not yet. Not yet.
Soon.
I know when
Are
she
you
passes
sure?
the bar.
Okay.
Right?
Soon.
That's right. And so thank you all so much for being with us today. We have a fun one today. We're actually going to be talking about relationships and what that means to be in a godly relationship. And so what we can do to move forward and work in our relationships with our spouses. And so we are so excited for this, and we're actually going to just jump right on into it because we know that some fun facts of our relationships are going to come up in the middle of this. So there's no need to ask a get to know your pastor question. You will get to know us throughout this time. So I want to start off with kind of a deep one. We're just going to jump right on into it, and I'm going to direct this one to Kelly. What does it mean to be in a godly relationship, and what does it mean to be equally yoked?
So that is a difficult question, but I think it's a two-part question. So we've got in 2 Corinthians, I believe, equally yoked. We're talking about equally yoked in 2 Corinthians where it says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Do not be yoked with unbelievers. And so if you read the rest of the scripture, it's talking about the Lord tells us to be separate. And I think that's what the first question answers, which is what does it mean to be in a godly relationship? To be separate, to have Christ as the center, and to be totally different from the world in that we put our trust in Christ. And even before our husbands or our wives, Christ is first, and we seek him first in all things. And so that's what I think is a godly relationship, is one that centers around Christ and who he is in our lives. And the second one, I think, being unequally yoked is so critical because if you go through and read the verse, it says, what fellowship does light have with darkness? And so when you're yoked, you're actually hitched together. It was used as for oxen, and they hitched them together. So really, that ox or your husband or your wife influences you. Whatever way they go, you follow. And so when you're unequally yoked and when you don't have Christ in the center, you're going to be influenced, whether that's for good or for bad. And so making sure that Christ is in the center and you all are going in the direction that God wants you to head in, I think is just so important. So that's why I think it's so important to have Christ as the center and make sure that you are equally yoked together in who you are in Christ.
That's really good. Good job, babe. Wow.
Why are you so surprised?
I'm just impressed. All right.
So proud.
Yeah, so proud. That's a good one.
I'm
Anybody
super
else
happy
want
to have someone talk about like the yoking of oxen, because that's usually like my role. I'm like, hold on, like I'll talk about that random thing. That was my favorite part of the whole thing.
Do you want to add more?
No, heck, that was great.
There you go. All right.
Enough said. Drop the mic.
There you go. All right.
Too high.
So we will move on. Yeah, thank you. So she said it. All right. So next question for you. What are some things you do? Actually, no, I'm sorry. Let me back up on that one. What should someone do if they are a Christian but are married to an unbeliever? So that's the first part of the question. And number two, going part of that, is what do you do if they're dating? So there's two different things. One, if they're married to an unbeliever. Two, if they're dating an unbeliever.
Sure. Let me jump in on the dating part first, because I think it's easier. That everything Kelly just said about being unequally yoked. If you are professing to be a believer in Jesus and dating someone who is not, I think you are misunderstanding the importance and the significance of that. The reason, the whole concept behind don't be unequally yoked is that you're pulling in different directions, just like Kelly was saying. They are trying to go one way and you're trying to go another way. And so as a believer, the centrality of God in your life should be just at the center. And so as someone who's dating, I say just that's to end that relationship. That is not a relationship that is bringing you toward God, which is one of the goals that you are claiming to be after, that you are trying to work toward as a believer, it's not compatible. They don't work together. It won't ever work together. There will be constant struggles in all that. Now, for people who are married, the Bible is very clear. God hates divorce, and you are not supposed to walk away from a marriage because you have different beliefs. I think, in fact, the Bible is quite clear that quite the opposite is, what are you supposed to do about it? Nothing. You're supposed to be who Christ has called you to be and live your life in a way that's consistent with him. The end. There's not a, but, or except for, or because of. There are no asterisks at the end of that statement. Yeah. So you live your life in the most Christ-like way that you possibly can, as you were always supposed to do. And I think if someone thinks like, marriage is supposed to be easy, or it's not supposed to be this or that, and marriage is hard, and it requires a lot of giving and a lot of commitment. And so that doesn't change because the other person is something, or because they aren't something, or because they're not enough of a thing. So, I think my answer actually is nothing. You're supposed to be who Christ called you to be.
In the Bible study or the book, Love and Respect, I think this is huge. If you are a male, love your wife. If you're a Christian and your wife is an unbeliever, love your wife. Love her. Like that's how you will show Christ's love, is love her. And if you are a woman and you're married to an unbelieving man, give him respect. Respect him. And I think really that will go so far in, that's how a man feels loved, is when you respect him. And when you disrespect him because he doesn't believe the way you believe, or he doesn't live the way you live, that's never going to be able to bring this person to Christ. And so I just think you, like you said, live the way you should live. Love your wife, respect your husband, and I think that'll go a long way.
Yeah, what I'm doing is actually pulling up that scripture, because I do think that it's important that we people are just like, should I divorce them if they're not a Christian? And it's just like you said, Luke, like, no, you don't do that. You don't divorce that person because they're not a Christian, but you continue to share God's love with them. And so it's 1 Corinthians 7:12-14. It says, to the rest I say this, I, not the Lord, if any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise, your children will be unclean, but as it is, they are holy. Which is crazy. Which is crazy to think that, hey, you being the light, you being the salt, can help bring your entire family to Christ through your actions and how you respond to that. So I think it's incredible, that response right there. So thank you guys for all of your amazing answers. Next one. This one's for Robbie Joe.
Okay.
Why is finding someone who values their relationship with God as much as you do so important?
So this actually just happened last night. We were talking with our kids. I was having a conversation with actually my 10-year-old. I don't know why, but I know what it was. I mentioned that a friend of mine's husband cooks. And then my daughter piped in, who's 12, says, my husband has to know how to cook. And she just stated it, right? And I'm like, okay. And so I said, actually, funny thing, if that's important to you, you should write that down. You should ask God. If that is really important to you, you should ask God. And so I said, actually, I made a list before I met your father. I made a list of things that were important to me. And I started on the list of needs to be taller than me, just random things that are so probably not important to some people. But for me, it was kind of a big deal. And so my 10-year-old stopped me and said, Mom, why didn't you say that they need to love Jesus as your number one? I said, oh, honey, that was, of course, the number one. And the other number, the number two, was needed to be ministry-minded, because I felt called into ministry, and I needed someone and I wanted someone who felt called into ministry as well. And he goes, oh, okay, go ahead, you could continue. But my 10-year-old kept me thinking correctly that I needed to, that you should keep loving Jesus as your number one priority. Sure. And I just love that, right? I had that conversation with my 12 and 10-year-old, and it's just great because it's so important to have someone who loves Jesus and puts that first, because one of my favorite quotes, it's not from Mr. DeSalvatore, but he quoted it from a book, so I say it's always from him, that I'm a sinner, I married a sinner, we live in a sinful world. And if we weren't on the same page in that, if we weren't understanding that together, I just think that would be so much more difficult. Sure. And so I think it's super important.
That's really good. It's funny because being in youth ministry, you know, all these kids would be like, oh, I'm dating this new girl. And I'm like, okay, tell me about her. And they're, you know, she's a volleyball player. She plays sports, or she does this, she does that. And I'm like, but does she love Jesus? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, so what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your life? But can I tell you, I've had so many conversations, not just with teenagers, but adults are the same thing. They think that coming to know about their relationship with Jesus will come after. To me, it's like, no, that should not come after. That should literally be like the first thing you do in saving you from weeks and months and years of just trouble finding out things that are completely contradicting to even your faith. And what I've found, this is just me, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I have found that typically people who don't ask those questions first and foremost are the ones who are serving religiously every week in a ministry, and after time of dating this person, they begin to fall away from serving in a ministry, being involved in the church. Their relationship with Christ starts to fall away. Why? Because I think they begin to compromise these things for their relationship rather than putting God first. And that's in my opinion. I don't know if you've seen the same thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, which is when you're unequally yoked and don't have Christ as the number one thing in that other person, then you're going to get pulled in different directions and you're going to be influenced. And that may include, if you're involved in a ministry, getting, sidebarred with other things and pull you away.
I remember I don't even think we were dating yet. And we went bowling. We went with like a bunch of friends. We went bowling. And so we stayed outside. We were just like talking, and I was like, so Kelly, like, what are you looking for in a boyfriend? And she's like, he's got to love the Lord. I'm like, oh, do I love the Lord? I'm like, yes, I love the Lord. Yes, of course. But that question hit me so hard. It was just like, whoa, like this chick is for real, and it's incredible to know that she loves the Lord more than she loves me, and vice versa. And to know that God is the constant of our lives and is the centerfold of it, it's so important.
For sure.
By the way, very subtle. I admire that smooth move. So, what are you looking for in a boyfriend? Just wondering.
Oh yeah, she put the God check right in front, like bam. And so I'm like, okay, let's get right with Jesus real quick.
Start praying every day.
Yeah. But it was great. She wasn't messing around. She knew what she wanted.
I agree. When we were in college, I would take a walk every morning. It was like my thing, and then I'd go to breakfast. And then I'd have to go from breakfast to go get ready for class, shower up, all that kind of stuff, and get ready for class. And this is one of the, I don't even think we were dating yet. And I noticed every morning I would see him at breakfast, and he would eat breakfast, dressed, ready to go, and then go pray. He was going with his Bible, and he went and prayed before class. And even in one of the churches we were at, he would get there so early to pray and to just start his day right. And I just remember I noticed that. I was like, okay, because I'm coming in from a walk. I wasn't being super spiritual. I was coming in from a walk, sweaty, eating my peanut butter toast. He was eating his breakfast to then go spend time with the Lord. And I noticed that. I was like, okay, note to self. It was totally, yeah.
There weren't a lot of people at Bible college breakfast at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday.
There was like
Shocking,
a handful of us. Exactly. So I
group.
saw who was.
Good for you, Luke. Good for you. Wow. All right. Well, next question. How important is prayer in your relationship, whether it's together or separate? Kelly.
Prayer is very, very important, both together, but more so even on your own when you're praying, because prayer on your own reflects, you're able to spend that time and reflect on your heart and what your actions are in your marriage and what God needs to change in you and change in your perspective of your husband and working with him. And sometimes I think we look too much at what they need to change and what's wrong with them and what they're doing incorrectly, or they're not following God's word with this and this, so why should I? And I think focusing on Christ and focusing on prayer with him allows God to speak into your life and minister to your heart in the areas that you need to change. And I think that's so important, especially with needs and decisions. When you're making decisions with your husband or disagreements, it allows you to go to Christ and really pray for your husband as well, making sure you're lifting up him in prayer and praying for protection for him and covering in his heart. And so I think that's just such a priority in your marriage. And together, praying together, it's incredible to hear his heart when he prays, when Stephen prays for me. And the desires in his heart, and just encourages me so much to hear him pray for me and what I'm going through, and he knows that. So and it really brings you together and really focuses your mind again on Christ and making Christ the center and making sure you're seeking him together. So it's such a priority in your marriage. If it's not right now, I would make it a priority, and even if it's just for a few minutes a day, making sure you set aside that time to pray together.
That's good. Monahan family, want to add to that at all?
Totally echo all of the importance of praying together, of praying in a group, of praying with a family, with a team, with children. I will say this, one thing that I get concerned of, and it actually goes more to my children, is we're usually driving to school. On the way to school, we'll pray before school. And it's like, okay, I'm leading us in prayer, which is a good thing. And they go, uh-huh. I'm like, I'm glad that we are praying together, but it needs to not be the be-all, end-all. Their relationship with God is personal, and as much as our relationship is corporate. And so there is a balance of making sure that there's a personal and a group relationship.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something, Rob Joe, or you're just
Lots of amens. Thank you, dear. Thank you.
No, I think it's super important. I think it's right, and it's good when you have a family, especially. It's good for them to see that. It's good for them to see mom and dad praying together, praying with them. That's just it's a healthy thing for them to see. And I echo you. I love it when my husband prays for me, right? It's so encouraging. So I echo that of there's something about it. It makes you love them, it makes you love them even more, and so that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that personal prayer is always so important. You need that relationship. You need that time with Christ on your own, which is, you shouldn't go a day without praying on your own with God. But I do think that the praying with your spouse and your family, we don't have kids yet, but, we want to make that a priority with our kids. But to hear your spouse praying for something, let's say it's a job, right? and you're like, Lord Jesus, and I pray that I get my job, and my wife is like, no, I don't want you to get that job. Like, what? Like, no, I'm praying against that. I don't want you to get that job, or I don't want you to relocate or something like that. You know, will it cause an argument? Maybe, but now at least you're together praying a different prayer. Now it's like, okay, God, wherever you lead us, we know that you are faithful. We know that you will protect us and guide us. And I think in those prayers, you also communicate, and we already know that families and relationships already have terrible communication skills. I've known so many people in a relationship where they live in the same house, they eat at the same table, they sleep in the same bed, but they have no communication. And I think that in prayer together, it helps them to communicate. And I have found that to be very true.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. Next question. How important is compromise in a relationship? How important is it? So I'll kick it off. I think it's very important. I think there's a balance depending on whether or not this person is a believer or not. But I do think let's just say that the relationship that you're in are believers. I think that regardless, compromise is so important. That for me was probably one of the hardest things. I listen on camera and on stage, and when I meet you guys, I must look like the most nicest, kindest person ever. But Kelly would say I'm the most stubborn, hard-headed person.
He can be stubborn.
One of our best friends, Josh, you don't see him behind the camera. He's nodding his head completely.
I mean, I think
to agreement on that.
He's so hard, like, man, that head is going.
The people closest to me would call me very hard-headed, and so with that, I do not compromise much. And so I have listen, Jesus is working in my heart on this, okay?
Prayer.
I'm just being transparent right now. It is very important. Do as I say, not as I do, okay? But I am working towards this, but I do think it's very important, and not to die on a hill that you can easily defuse a situation by just saying, okay, you know what? We'll try it your way right now, or we'll do this for right now. I think compromise is extremely important to help build a relationship, to mend relationships, and I don't know. I feel like I can't really give straight examples, but I do believe that compromise is very important. Anybody want to chime in on that?
No, I'm scared to.
I was transparent.
Good, that was great. All right, anyway.
I'm still learning.
I think part of what comes to my mind is, okay, so I think I'm a fairly easygoing kind of person, kind of like, whatever. But there's something when it's your spouse that's like a little bit, you don't want to compromise, because it's like, I find whatever, the wall should be blue, like so important, such a big deal, and I want you to agree with me. But like, you need to understand why I think it should be blue. And so I think that sometimes being married like leads away from compromise, because you compromise people at work. You're like, okay, whatever, like, oh, that's fine, I don't care, do whatever you want. But like at home, you need to understand. Like, I want that wall to be blue because blue is just such a better color than, I don't know, what would you think?
The best part is you could care less about wall colors.
No, I couldn't. When I care, you'll know.
And I do agree. Your personality type, very easygoing, but probably to err on the side of Pastor Stephen, when you have a very very opinionated spouse, you need someone very easygoing because but there is a lot of compromise because you have to compromise. I might have a great idea, but we're a team. I think the quote I was just saying earlier today was, your strength makes you, gives you a role in a relationship, but your weakness is what gives you a team. And so there are areas that you're not as strong and I'm not as strong. And our weaknesses are what makes us a good team. That, like, your ability to listen to the whole thing and to say, actually, I think they meant it like this, is very helpful when I'm saying, no, they didn't mean it like that. They meant it very, and he's like, well, they might. It's very helpful because that's my weakness, to maybe not see the other side so great.
Who knows?
Good. Now, to stir the pot a little bit, I think that dating compromise, there should be minimal compromise, especially if you're dating an unbeliever. And what I mean by that, and you know what, let's take out unbeliever, believer, because there are Christians that do believe in sex before marriage. There are Christians who are living in an apartment or in a house with the person that they're dating. And I think that those are compromises that should never happen. If you're a Christ follower and believe that you shouldn't have sex until you're married, but then you're dating someone that is kind of pushing those lines, then I think that that's compromise that should not be crossed. And those are just actually, that's a big deal, but those are just things that should not be compromised. Anything that goes against our faith should not be compromised in a relationship.
I always like a book. I always reference a book. And so I remember reading this book. I think it was called The Bride Wore White, before I even dated. And I think if this is the correct book, which I think it is, it was saying that figure out where your line is. So holding hands, kissing, hugging, whatever that line is, wherever you want to feel comfortable, and actually do one step less. Because there is human nature that kicks in. And so if you say, we are going to blah, 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 whatever that thing is, set your standard one step lower, because you get so close to that line, and in the midst of, as Bishop would say, hormones, that was one of my favorite things he's ever said. In the midst of just being human, you get close enough to that line, and there are compromises made in the moment. And so if you set your line even lower, then you're so much more less likely to hit that gray area.
Remind me of I don't talk to youth as much as I used to, but one thing I would often talk to them about is this idea that, marriage has difficulty in it, and trying to a little bit like give them a perspective of marriage without romance in it. Because I think going back to there's a perception of, if I find the right person, it'll be nothing but romance. It'll be nothing but ease. Everything will just fit. You won't need to compromise because you're like the same person.
So in love.
Right, which is totally unrealistic for any marriage. And I remember I was trying to explain this one time, and some kid was like, you guys having trouble at home? And I was like, I appreciate that. But you just proved my point. Because as soon as I stopped talking about romance and feeling in love, they were like, oh, that must be a bad marriage. Like, no, that's a good marriage, because and the physicality of a relationship covers up the difficulty. And so you get kids who are madly in love, or they think they are, and really haven't even had chances to love each other because they've never made compromises, they've never made sacrifices, they've never done any of the things that an adult would define love as, but are like so convinced that this is what love is because this is what a dating relationship has consisted of. See, total old man soapbox right there. But
I love it. That's a good one. All right, moving on. What are some things you do to build your relationship with your spouse? What are some things you do to build your relationship with your spouse? Who wants to take this one?
podcasting.
Podcasting, okay.
My favorite.
Hey, there you go. All right.
YouTube stardom.
Okay. I would say a big thing we do, like you were talking about, communicate. I'm huge. I need to communicate. I need to tell you how I'm feeling, and you need to understand how I'm feeling, and I want to know how you're feeling, and that's huge for me in any relationship, marriage or friendship or whatever. to have that communication. And so that's a huge thing we do regularly. Like if he comes home from work and doesn't communicate with me by the end of the night, I'm usually asking all those questions. So, what, all that. And so I think communication is a huge thing. I think you said earlier too, to your point of, we do ministry together. We love to be involved in church together. I mean, we just, together, as a family, we love to do church together, to minister together. We just love that, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I personally love to see you guys serving, especially in East Windsor, because I'm biased towards that. But it is great to see you guys serving together, and all your kids. Some of your kids are holding up signs for children's coming in. Grace is on the lighting board. It is awesome to see that. Kelly, were you going to say something?
I was going to say it's, like Robbie Joe was saying, it's such an encouragement to serve together because you're doing something for God's kingdom together, and you see him serving or you see her serving, and it's just such an encouragement to see them working with other people and encouraging other people. And so that's a big thing. And I think also doing things that maybe you may not like to do, but he likes to do, such as disc golf, which I have tried a few times. I may not be very good at it, and not like it very much. And he'll go for walks with me or things like that, things that you can do together, and you just enjoy communicate during that time, and those are important.
That's good.
Yeah. Board game with your husband.
I think actually we don't have a lot of hobbies in common. Like we don't like the same leisure things very much, which is kind of ironic. So whenever we're doing whatever thing together, it's a compromise from one of us. It's like, okay, sure, right? You want to play Settlers of Catan with us? Or
listen, I had 3 children so that you could have 4 people to play a board game, and I'll make snacks.
There you go.
I'll just buy 5-player games. That's fine.
No. Stick to the 4-player. You're good. You're good.
Okay,
Stick to the 4. We're good.
All right. I think one of the things we've tried, and we're trying to do a lot better, I think, with Kelly studying for the bar, that kind of put a big halt on that. But just designating a night and just going on a date night. No work involved. No one's looking at their phones. No one's doing anything. And we would just go on a date night, whether that be let's go pre-COVID. It would be like a dinner and a movie, right? It would be dinner and a movie, or we did do the drive-in the other day. That was actually really, really cool. Terrible movie, but it was just cool to just be there and drive out and just have a good time. And those are things that if you have children, try to find a babysitter and spend some time with your spouse and just talk and enjoy that moment with them, and just set aside the busyness of life and to just focus on one another and just communicate. Or I've also heard that date nights end up turning into the night where everyone's just arguing and they're hashing it out, and by the date night's over, everything is good and everything is resolved. And so maybe it ends up being like their communication night. So, those things happen too. But I think when you start to prioritize your spouse in that way, it becomes very, very important in building the relationships. All right. Last question. Ready? This is for everybody.
Okay.
What is one piece of advice you'd give to a newlywed couple? What is one piece of advice you would give to a newlywed couple? I'll start. I'll give this advice because I needed this advice when I was a newlywed couple myself. All right? Communication. Robbie Joe hit on this. I think all of us hit on it at some point or other. Communication. I'll give you a perfect example. When we were first married, she'd come home from work. I'd have like all my friends over the house. We'd be hanging out. We'd be playing video games. There'd be food all over the place. And my wife comes in. She's like, what the heck is going on? I'm like, what? My friends are over the house. I can have friends. And she's like, but I'm coming home from work. I just wanted to spend time with you. And I could not understand what the problem was. And it wasn't that she didn't like my friends. It was just the fact
Maybe
that
that one guy.
it was maybe the one guy, but it was just the fact that I never communicated to her that, hey, I'm having friends over, so that she could, just be ready to come in and say hi. But instead, it's a messy house. Friends are all over, smelled like dudes all over the place. Like, there's no food on the table. Everyone's playing games. And she's just like, I just want to come home after a long, busy day and relax and spend time with me versus a house full of guys. And so over time, communication has gotten better. There are times where, kind of like Robbie Joe's, she's just like asking, hey, how was your day? What's going on? And I'm just kind of like, I just don't want to talk right now. But I think communication is big. So communicate on everything if you can. That's my advice.
Good advice. Very good advice. I would say, I think part of it goes back to what Robbie Joe was saying. I know Ruth Bell Graham, who was married to Billy Graham, would say that a happy union is between two people who forgive each other, full of forgiving. And I think a lot of it is forgiving. You're with someone who is
Leaves hair all over the place. I mean,
oh yeah. With
but
sin, I forgive you too. With sin. And you yourself are full of sin, and he will
grabs
mess up.
the toothpaste in the middle and squeezes the tube in the middle.
Okay.
But I forgive you.
I forgive you too, babe. We won't go there, will we? We will not go there. No, I lost my train of thought. Thank you.
Graham, forgiveness.
Forgiving. And so you're in a relationship, and there just needs to be a lot of forgiving, because you're both going to mess up quite a bit. And I think forgiveness is just a huge, huge thing to keep in mind, and be realistic as to what type of relationship you're in. And you both are sinners. And I think another point is prayer. Again, prayer, personal prayer, and looking at yourself and looking how you react to God's word, and whether you're following God's word. It doesn't matter what he is doing or what you think he's doing wrong, because we can be too high and mighty and think we're doing everything right, which is absolutely not true. And are we ourselves looking at God's word and looking at our hearts and allowing God to speak into our lives, so that we can encourage and be the best spouse that God has called us to be?
That's good. Robert Joe?
Yeah. Advice to newlyweds. I mean, before we were married, I would say find someone you really like. So before you even are newlyweds, find someone you get along with. You know what I mean? Like that it isn't a struggle to be near them. I hope you would, but I think a big thing is remember those reasons you chose this person, right? Remember, one of the big things was I still think he's funny. Like, he's got
Luke is pretty hilarious.
People say it's a dry sense of humor. I don't know what that is versus whatever, but I think you're funny. And so remember that. Remember that, like, that person, the things you fell in love with, the man who I saw eating breakfast to go to the prayer chapel. Remember those things when frustration time comes, because they come. When you get frustrated with your spouse, when you get frustrated with them, remember those things that you enjoyed, that you liked, that you he tells a story that I tricked him, that I made him believe I liked board games. But I knew he liked them, so I did them to
Trick me. Some people might call it entrapment, but tricking is fine. Tricking is that's fine.
Listen, you played fun games in like Cranium. Now you play games that are like you have to think. Cranium, I got to sing a song, and you and like now you
He
make
does
me
like
think.
those 4-hour you gotta hash out half
Oh.
a day type games.
Yes.
4 hours is not a half of a day, but yes, you are correct.
You literally have to spend half of it on YouTube trying to figure out how to play a game,
Which Steven was trying to do.
but it is awesome. Those
Listen.
games are awesome.
Last night before bed.
You're going to say this.
Last night before bed, he was literally reading the instructions to a new game he got. This is what is fun for him. But you know what? That's one thing that I loved before we were married. He is a smart guy. If he's going to know how to do something, he's going to know how to do it. Like, he's going to have read those instructions. So then when I have questions, I go, well, what's this mean? What's that? He has answers, and I loved that because I loved that he never made me feel stupid for asking the question, and that he 9 times out of 10 had the answer, and it was a correct answer. It wasn't just made up.
I also made the big kids spend like an hour separating some cards from a game that had like expansions, but then didn't, because I was gonna make you guys play it, but I wanted to start back to like the base version, so I made them help me like
Is that the
separate.
Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah,
I
we're
can't wait
getting ready
that
for
game.
it. Anyway, but now that I have the mic, I'm taking over. Extended family is my answer. The rule that we went with is, if my parents are the issue, which, believe it or not, mom, dad, could maybe happen in the past,
No.
I talk to my parents. If Robbie Joe's family are the issue, then she talks to them, right? Rather than me having to go to like my mother-in-law and be like, hey, what do you like? We discuss, we're on the same page. You handle your family, I'll handle my family. And I think it worked out fairly well. I mean, I don't know, mom, dad, is it working? That, and make sure you're still in the will. No.
So I echo this as far as my joke is, you're their baby. So my mother, she adored me. He was the outsider, not in a bad way, but, and so if I needed to say, hey mom, you got to back off a little. Hey mom, I need you to whatever. It was so much more. She wasn't going to hate me. I could say, whatever, and she loves her baby. And so it just was so helpful. I mean, we talked about it beforehand. It was definitely a joint decision, but I think it just works out so well that
One more bonus thing.
okay.
Be careful when you're venting about your spouse who you're telling, because you'll sway their opinion forever when you forgive and forget.
Wow. That's a really, really good one.
Because you're always complaining to your closest people, right?
Wow.
Robert Joe doesn't go to my mom to complain about me, who knows how great I am. She goes to her friend, who then is forever left with a negative impression about me.
Wow.
Guarding your spouse, I think, is so important.
Huge.
What you say
Huge.
about them, even in normal conversation, if you're just joking, I think it's so important to guard them and to guard their name and protect them. That's big thing.
Yeah, that is really good. And I would agree. I'd go even further to say, hey, do your best to not disagree in front of each other in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just kind of nod your head. If Kelly's talking, you nod your head. You agree with your spouse in front of people for everything. But then behind closed doors, when it's just you and I, be like, Kelly, you took that way too far.
Yes.
Like, you took that way too far. You need to go back. You need to fix this situation. This is why, and hash it out between the two of you there. But don't let a foothold for the enemy to get in where other people are talking about your relationship.
And
I think that's big.
And I totally agree. Don't bring other people into your marriage. I mean, unless it's because you need to, like a counselor, which is so, you should. If you need it, you should, unless it's, but don't bring people into your marriage. And I know for me, when I say, I can think something all day long, but when I say it to someone else, it almost brings validity to it, where if you didn't say that about the other person, I just think it's so important not to bring people into your marriage. Like, professionals, sure, you need to bring them into your marriage, but friends, I don't know if I don't know. you know.
That's a good one. And I would also add one more, and this is kind of like Luke would say, a bonus one. If you are in an interracial relationship, so I'm Puerto Rican, Kelly's white, embrace the culture of your spouse. I think that's big. I think that sometimes you see these relationships where one person is a different race, and one person will try to change the other person's culture and just make it seem like one culture is better than the other. I think it's so important that you embrace the culture. And so what I mean by that is I've taken Kelly to a Spanish church, and Kelly at first was like, why are they yelling? Why are they so mad? And I'm like, they're actually not. They're very passionate. They're very loud. There's no EQing on the soundboard. It's all the way up. They want those praises to reach Jesus. Like, it's, and their services are 3 hours long. It's like, and that was just the offering. It's like, holidays, things change, where I'm like, Kelly, why does your family want to spend Thanksgiving so early?
We're breakfast people. Like, we wake up in the morning, we like a big breakfast, bagels, eggs, like
turkey.
8:30.
What is this? I just want to sleep, but it's embracing the culture and knowing that you're
the Manchester race. Yeah,
the
yeah.
yes,
Got it,
exactly.
Got it.
That's awesome.
And Steven loves it now.
I have learned to love it.
Yes.
I was never like an apple picking person. I was like, what is this? Like, people, you just go apple picking and you just get a bag and go to certain trees and every apple is different. I'm like, what? Now I'm like, we need to go apple picking. Like, this is awesome.
Aww,
I'm like, Mrs. Canuckle, I can't wait for your apple pie. Like, it's going to be so dope. And so, like, I think embracing the culture, listen, to the point where, like, Kelly and her whole family cooks with adobo, sazon. Like, it's made the food so much better. And so it's just, like, compromising on those type of things. But embracing the culture, I think, is so, so important. That's my little thing there. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you all so, so much. I hope that you as the viewers are motivated, inspired. You have been refreshed on some of these things and feel a lot better to go out and have a great relationship with your spouse. Or even if you're single, I hope that this advice has been great for you as well. Robbie Joe, would you mind closing us off in prayer?
Sure. Lord, I thank you for this time that we could spend together, just remembering why we love our spouse. And so, God, I just pray that you would be with all of the people who hear this, that they would be encouraged, that they would put you first in their relationships, whether that be dating, whether that be marriage, or maybe they're single, God, that you would just remind all the listeners that they are chosen by you. They are not half a cookie. And God, we thank you and we praise you and we ask you to be with all of our viewers and listeners who are listening to this, and that you would strengthen their marriages and their relationships. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I like that half a cookie thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And when
pretty
we were
cool.
in college, there was a single professor who did a chapel. And he said, I'm single. I'm not half a cookie. I am a whole cookie, and I'm looking for another whole cookie. So don't, when you're single, feel like you're half a cookie and you're half of something.
Wow.
You are a full cookie, and you bring the full.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did he have Oreos?
I'm not sure what
Shout
he had.
out to Dan Stanley.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you all. We love you. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.